All right, hello again, Internet. We're back to do episode 5, Empire Strikes Back of Star Wars. Critically acclaimed to be the best movie of the series, and as a kid, I don't know if I agreed with that, but definitely now, I can see it's the best of the bunch. Cough until episode 7. I'm holding on hope. Anyway, let me pass this off to Justin again, who will get us started with some really heavy questions.
Oh, sure. Well, guys, having seen this movie right after episode 4, I don't know about you, but I definitely felt there was a change in tone. And I wondered if maybe you guys wanted to speak to what did you notice that was different about this movie from the other movie, specifically in either in the story or in the general tone of this film versus A New Hope.
Hmm. Difference in tone. Definitely more. Definitely a bit of a darker edge, and clearly looking to do. Actually, in the end, more world building because there are more moving parts to the story. The gang splits up.
It's also the first time you hear about the Emperor or see the entire Empire fleet.
Yeah, yeah. Well, not the entire fleet, but you get a sense of like how big this whole operation is, and it's true. It is the first time that you see the Emperor.
The Star Destroyer didn't exist in the last movie. There was just the Death Star. Now you see a whole fleet of Star Destroyers.
You start off at the beginning of A New Hope with a Star Destroyer.
Oh, yeah.
I know what you're talking about, though.
You don't have several of them at once.
Right.
But yeah, that does give it more. So there is a sense of kind of we're still on the hero's journey. So the bare bones of the story are still pretty basic, but it's everything just bigger, more complicated, more complex, more emotional, and a little bit darker too. I really like the fact that for example, right in the middle, they take time for Luke to sort of directly experience the dark side of the Force, and sort of come face to face with what that can bring out in a person. So stuff like that I really like. Little touches like that just give the characters more time to develop.
On that note, this may not be related to the overall tone of the movie, but as far as the darker edge goes, the the end of the movie, the bad guys win.
That's true.
And if you were sitting in theaters when this first came out, can you imagine waiting 3 years for the next movie where Darth Vader and the Empire had just won? They just beaten our heroes. We never even considered that before because we as kids we just went right into the next film. But I was talking to my boss and he was talking about how impactful that was for him when he saw it first in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting to note.
Not having everything tied up in a nice bow at the end.
Yeah.
And then 3 years previous, when you'd had that decisively, happy ending.
Yeah.
With we destroyed the Death Star. Yeah, I guess Darth Vader's still alive, but well, let's celebrate for now. It's very much it could like stand on its own in a lot of ways. So
Sure.
to see that victory in this movie, first of all, was very short-lived because then they go on the run and they have to go to Hoth, and even there they get they because of the probe droids they get found pretty easily.
And you really get to see the rebels aren't this strong military force. They are a rebel organization, and they're up against the massive might of a galactic empire.
Right.
And you really get to feel that in this movie.
Yeah, and I love the fact that one of the first, the way this movie begins, I think, is really. First of all, it takes place in this world we've never seen in the Star Wars universe before. This is Antarctica on steroids. This is it's totally barren. It's there's nothing, even the Tauntauns, which I don't know if they're supposed to be endemic to this world, but we see even like there are certain times where the Tauntauns can't even be out because it's just too damn cold.
Right.
I mean, right away, like this is not like, especially comparing this to the last Rebel base, which was on Yavin 4, which was actually filmed in Guatemala, and has like kind of like this this lush kind of feel versus this place now. I mean, right away, I think Lucas, in addition to other people who worked on this movie, are really trying to put us on edge. And it gets dire. That the Battle of Hoth is really dire. I mean, yeah, there's a few like short-lived things like using the tow cables against the AT-AT walkers, or but at the same time, yeah, the base eventually is overrun and they have to escape to somewhere else. I mean, this is a relentless empire, and I really like how they set that up, and pretty much from the get-go, we can't be sure of anything about, and I think that carries through the rest of the movie as well.
Can I draw on that point a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
I'm pretty sure the rebels just got the base fully operational before they had to abandon it. They had no time to rest. They had just set up the sensors.
Yeah.
So that's a great point.
Really, it's the first time we really start to get the sense of this. I also like the fact that we go to 3 different planets over the course of this movie. I mean, in A New Hope, you don't really see Yavin 4. Like we have
very briefly. Yeah, right.
You don't get a sense of what the planet is like. And, you only really see Tatooine. That's it. Almost the bulk of the movie is in space. Here, you start to get, again, it's everything taken up to the next step. More worlds, all different sorts of worlds, and that opens up all different types of possibilities.
To be fair, Bespin is probably as much of the world as Yavin is. You get to see the clouds a couple times.
Yeah, they're very much they're always a presence. Certainly, if the actual place where they're in a structure, but at the same time you're very much aware of the surrounding cloud formations. And also speaking to the kind of darker edge to this movie, certainly I was really I was looking at the credits for this movie, and of course we have a new director this time, Irvin Kershner, and who I think does a really great job with this movie, and really I think really ups the drama, and really starts to make this something that's worth taking seriously. Not that the first movie wasn't worth taking seriously, but I think while we have the action scenes, but it's a lot more. There's this sense of direness to these scenes that maybe the first movie, some of those scenes you could say are kind of fun, and in a kind of swashbuckling way. So not only do we have a new director, but we also have the story of this film is credited to George Lucas, but there's 2 screenwriters who I believe this is the first movie Star Wars movie that they're working on, which is Lawrence Kasdan, who I believe co-wrote the screenplay for the upcoming Episode 7, right? Mm-hmm. And also another screenwriter, Lee Brackett, who I was familiar with because of some older films. I was not aware that she worked on this movie. She's worked on a Western, Rio Bravo, which is very good. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that. And she also did the adaptation, along with William Faulkner, of The Big Sleep, which are very different movies from Star Wars. But I think because of that, and these guys had a decent amount of experience before they worked on this movie, there is this sense of really creating some genuine tragedy out of the mythos that's already been established.
I would agree. I would definitely agree with that.
So I really think bringing in new creative forces, which I don't know at the time if it was seen as radical or not, but certainly, I think opens up a lot of the possibilities for drama and tragedy in this movie.
In contrast, I just want to point out as well that the so this movie and episode 6 were written and directed by people not George Lucas.
Right.
So George had a lot of people in these two films, which are arguably the best two films of the franchise. All of the prequels were written and directed by George Lucas, as well as episode 4. So just bear that in mind when we're discussing these.
I do think there is a sense of this movie being a bit tighter, and definitely, in A New Hope, I talked about how you kind of notice watching it again how very slow moving it is at times. Sometimes I felt to the film's detriment. You really don't get the sense here. It moves along, never rushed, but at a very good pace, and that allows you to pack more into the running time.
Yeah.
Even though a huge chunk of the movie are just Han and Leia and Chewbacca getting chased.
or Luke doing push-ups. I mean,
Yeah.
There's not a lot of objective action going on in this movie.
Right. Yeah. But you still feel like a lot happens, and you learn a lot.
Yeah.
About the characters.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it was also the movie that gave us Yoda. So
Yoda, yeah. I also just realized Obi-Wan kind of. Oh no, that's fair. No, he showed up in episode 4 as well after his death. Because I was gonna say there was like when Luke starts hearing voices in the swamp and sees the ghost of Obi-Wan. I'm like, he doesn't even question it. He's just like, oh hi Ben. But it occurs to me it's been happening pretty much ever since his death.
Well, you see some of the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
I think at the beginning of the movie, you get the sense of he's like, Ben?
Yeah, you're right. I forgot in those scenes.
He's freezing to death. It must be a delusion.
Right.
But then you could imagine that because he also heard his voice at the end of episode 4.
Right.
Even as soon as Ben died, Luke heard "Run, Luke" or something like that.
But I don't know if Luke necessarily realized what it was.
Fair enough.
Like, I don't think it would have realized. It might have just been like, oh, if Ben were here, he would tell me to run!
Yeah.
Like, later, I think, like, between scenes, he puts 2 and 2 together, like,
Right. Can we while we're talking about the swamp, can we talk? Excuse my French. How fucking irreverent Luke is to Yoda, and like the entire time he's there, particularly the scene where Luke goes into the cave or wherever he goes into, and Yoda's like, "You won't need your weapons," and Luke just looks at him, ties his belt with all the weapons on it, and then walks into the cave. Like, fuck you, old man, I'm gonna bring my weapons. I'm like, Luke, you're better than that.
Yeah.
But he hasn't, in his defense, he hasn't seen what Yoda's capable of. He just is trusting him on faith that he's a Jedi Master. So I'm kind of torn, like...
I mean, we kind of gave Yoda all of that importance and, reverence ourselves later on.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to imagine if you were in Luke's position. Of course, you'd be pissed off if he broke into your camp, stole your food, and started breaking your stuff.
Yeah. And especially because his experience with people who have he's seen Ben. That's really it. I mean, that's his only gauge of what a Jedi can be, as opposed to this little creature who's not very tall, doesn't look like he can do anything.
And Vader too, though.
Nomad. Even as a nomad in the desert.
He knows that Vader. I guess he knows that Vader can use the Force too. But yeah, exactly. He has this idea of what a Jedi, a warrior. I remember how he emphasizes the word warrior, and that's what he has in mind.
A great warrior.
And it speaks to the direness of the situation with the rebels, and is maybe part of the reason why I really watching this movie. I have to say, one of the things I forgot about was how much Yoda distrusts Luke throughout the entire time that he's on Dagobah. I really forgot that. I forgot that they really don't form. There's a rapport, but it's mostly uneasy. And there's, I love the scene where when he lifts the X-wing out of the swamp, and Luke says, "I don't believe it," and Yoda says, "That is why you fail." I mean, this is not like. Luke does not see the light after the end of his time at Dagobah, and to his detriment. I mean, he falls into he does fall into a trap, and he's bringing all this baggage with him to the swamp, and is part of the reason why I think Yoda doesn't think he's ready for training, because he can't let go. He can't let go of his responsibilities that he's gained, and maybe wouldn't have. He might not have had as much in the first movie if he hadn't met Han and Leia and the rest of the Resistance. But here now, because he's a character who has changed, he's not ready for the training. And I really like that you see this part of Luke that you didn't think you'd see, which is this rashness, and for a good purpose. I mean, he goes to Bespin in order to try to save Han and Leia, but doesn't think of anything beyond that.
And from Yoda's perspective, he continues to train him, even given his misgivings, because there's no one else.
Yeah.
It's either Luke or bust. But he's also torn because he knows Luke
or Leia.
That's true.
There is another.
Well,
that's true.
Yeah, we can get. Sorry, go ahead, Queso.
No, I was gonna say he continues to he's also afraid that Luke will follow his father. So he's really torn. He's like, my only hope, or more disaster waiting.
Well, so also something to keep in mind is because this was a big part of the story as a whole. The reason why the Jedi failed against the Emperor was because they were locked into old ways of thinking, and this idea of Jedi have to literally let everything go and completely cut themselves off from connections with other people or from regular daily life. They have to be these beings apart, and that's why they would take babies basically and train people up from babies and not give them a chance to be a normal child or to see how normal people function. And that made them removed, and that was why they failed.
Which, by the way, Qui-Gon was against that, just for the record.
But, and again, that's the important thing, though. Yoda came from that tradition, Obi-Wan did as well, and they both realized that, okay, when we find a new Jedi, or, when we, as we're keeping an eye over Vader's kids, we have to be aware of this. But, of course, they still have those assumptions in their mind. So Yoda explicitly says, he's too old. Because in Yoda's tradition, no one Luke's age would ever succeed in becoming a Jedi. But that is the importance of it. He's able to take the best of the old Jedi Order, but renew it and sort of refresh it in his own way, because he's gone through regular, really hard suffering, and is able to combine that with what he knows about how people just live. Why in the extended universe, it ends up being totally okay for Jedi to marry and have kids and a family, etc., etc.
Can I touch on something Justin said and it's one of the reasons I think these Star Wars movies have stood the test of time, or one of the reasons, because these characters are living in the movie sense. They're living, changing beings. Every one of these characters grows and adapts and changes throughout the course of the story. And that's something you don't often see in these type of, air quotes, stock stories. Because in
the lesser one, you don't see it.
Right. You see Han go from this scoundrel to a leader in the course of 3 movies. You see Luke go from this farm boy to a Jedi Master. And it's really, I'm sure Leia has an arc too. I'm blind to it.
Love.
Perhaps she's the weaker one, but
maybe
that's the writer's fault.
Well, actually, the thing is that when Leia comes in, you already get the sense that she's a veteran leader. She's been around. She already has a position of authority. But it's not like, kind of Han in a way. I have to say it's almost subversive in a way, because in A New Hope, Leia is already developed. She's a fighter. She's a leader. She resisted the mind drugs. Okay, that all happens off screen, but still, you have a Sith Lord going I can't make her crack.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So she's already in a position of responsibility, authority, and strength, and a fair bit of emotional maturity. So it's almost quietly subversive in a way where he doesn't have a lot of growing to do.
In fact, she may even, it almost seems like she, for lack of a better word, softens throughout the trilogy. She goes from that, softens is the wrong word, but she's not as antagonistic.
She mellows.
She mellows. She mellows out, and I don't know why. I don't know what that says about her character or her journey. Um,
I don't think it's something negative.
no, I don't think so either. But it's an interesting something to pick up on.
But that's also something I picked up again. Going back to watch the movies, and like, Leia takes charge as soon as they break her out. She's like, "All right, thanks for rescuing me. Now this is what we're doing."
Or it's like, oh, you guys didn't have a plan? Well, I guess I had to figure something out. Yeah.
All right, garbage chute now.
Into the garbage chute, flat boy. Yeah.
Some of those lines.
So she just does that like that. So she's more of a hard ass than either of them.
Yeah, they're like, oh shit. Well, we didn't really have a plan for this. Like, oh, I guess I got to come up with something. But yeah, I do like, and some people might find this a bit of a tired trope, but her banter with Han in Empire, I think, is really definitely has a screwball element to it.
Yeah.
There's that one part where there's that one part where she kisses Luke just to piss Han off, which of course in retrospect is kind of gross, but
reaction to that, he just sort of puts his hands behind his head.
But it's like little moments like that which I really feel like I don't know if maybe I think maybe the screenwriters had something to do with that, it's like little things like that. But also there's a great moment between Han and Leia, where I believe Han is saying goodbye because he's gonna go pay off Jabba the Hutt. And he says he does soften a bit when he's like, all right, I forget exactly what his line is, but it's something effective like, okay, I'm really sorry I have to go. And she's like, well then go. Like she's, and like once like he does initially let his guard down, and I love that the fact that like he's changed, that he's been able to do that, but once she snaps at him, he's back to being the old, the stubborn Han Solo that we know. It's little moments like that really, like you were saying, Casey, make them feel real, make them feel like more than just movie characters or stock characters. So yeah, that's another thing that this movie continues to do well.
Thinking that. Well, also in addition to that, we talked a little bit about the acting in the last movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for the most part, it's the same cast of characters this time around, except who's the name of the guy they have playing Lando?
Billy D. Williams.
Yeah, Billy D. Williams.
Billy D. Williams. Okay.
I only know that from Scrubs.
I really like how he builds his character, and just right away you're like, okay, he's just talking like businessman / probably a con artist, in his past, who the drop of the hat is, a sleazy womanizer, and all of that you can kind of pick up just in his first few lines.
Yeah.
It's a great bit of like just building your character through how you act and how you like deliver your line. Well, hello there.
And even he has kind of a redemption arc throughout this.
Yeah,
that's true.
I mean,
I love how even at the worst time, like he and still have like this understanding of like, yeah, this is how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, they go a long way back.
Yeah,
this happens to them more than once a millennium.
Han gets freaking tortured, and he's still like, fuck you, Lando.
Yeah.
Go fuck you. Okay.
Yeah, I really that I do like the fact that he goes from being like, I have no choice, to, all right, I guess I do have a choice, and I really screwed up with that one choice I made, but now I'm going to try to do everything in my power to make it right. And
I have to say, everything that happens in the cloud, you can get a sense of what he's giving up here. There's a moment in one of the later Star Wars books, in the Thrawn trilogy, where he starts up, he find out he started another company in the meantime, doing some sort of, I forget exactly what he's doing, but he has another space station where he's running a whole other business.
It was a mining facility, but
I think it was
instead of
I think
gas, it was like rocks or something.
yeah, it was like another,
Paper rock.
yeah, it was another mining business.
Yeah.
But Thrawn comes in, and basically, once again, he's forced to abandon it. And he has a great moment in that book that was an amazing throwback to this movie, where he was like, Jesus Christ, first Cloud City, now this. How many times is the Empire going to shut me down?
What the hell's the name of the guy who wrote that book? Timothy Zahn. That trilogy was written intentionally drawing a lot of parallels to the original trilogy. And if no one, any of our listeners haven't read those stories, including Justin,
I have not.
you have to go and read those books. They're really phenomenal. Some people don't like them because it feels like some of the parallels are almost forced. But I never felt that way.
I don't think so. I mean, I have to say this. If anyone wants to jump into the EU but is not sure where to start, because there are so many books.
And they're all technically non-canon now, but that's another
What?
story. They're all technically non-canon now.
But because for years they had to technically be canon, they are all consistent with each other.
For the most part.
Which is why I argue that the core EU books are like where the real heart of Star Wars lies, just because there's so much there.
Right, which is what I was trying to get at in the last.
But I think if anyone were to want to get into the extended universe, I would highly recommend taking the Thrawn trilogy first, because it's very close to the end of the original movies.
5 years. No, it's 5 years. Sorry, it's 5 years.
5 years. And they're just, out of all the ones that I've read, they're some of the best written. Out of the ones that I've read so far. So there are others that I know other people recommend, but those and Shatterpoint are the ones where anyone listening who wants to know like where you should start, those are the ones I recommend.
I would love to have a conversation about the merits of the Star Wars, or the merits or the disaster of the Lucas group or Lucasfilm group, whatever it's called, their decision to decanonize the old EU. I would love to talk about that.
Pretty stupid.
But people, like you were saying before, people tend to take that and like blow it out of proportion. It's fine. It's fine. But that's another story. Let's try to get back to the movie.
I mean,
actually, something I want to ask you guys.
Go ahead, sure.
Yes.
We talked about how, both critically and on a popular level, people acclaim this as the best of the Star Wars movie. And I honestly, I agree. I'm up there with everyone. That said, as I said, even when Star Wars is at its best, there are still like odd little moments or issues that you can nitpick. Either the best, it follows what I think is one of the best series, one of the best moments in the movie, when Luke finally faces Darth Vader. For my money, that is the best lightsaber battle in all of the movies put together, because it is the most interesting and like engaging action to watch out of the original. But it has all of the emotional tension and drama that the lightsaber battles in the prequels lacked. Because you know Luke is outmatched, but it's still like he's just barely hanging on. But it's incredible to watch him struggle anyway. Anyway, at the end of that, his hand's gone. He's like he's wrapping his arms around the whatever the fuck that thing is in that giant silo in the middle of the city, whatever purpose that thing is supposed to serve. So he's there, and then comes the moment. I am your father. No! And his mouth is like melting along the side of like the whole best moment of the movie, or one of the worst things ever in the history of cinema.
A little background. Luke, I actually don't know if Luke knew what the line was supposed to be, but the line that was spoken during filming was, Ben killed your father. Or Obi-Wan killed your father. Because nobody knew that Darth Vader was actually Luke's father up until, except for maybe Mark Hamill, obviously the writers and George Lucas and James Earl Jones. I don't think David Prowse had any idea. So this was a huge secret that was kept in the wraps until like the day the movie came out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think Hamill knew before the scene was filmed, but I can't be sure.
Interesting. Like even to keep a secret from the crew and the staff.
Yeah.
I gotta.
That is it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you, Noah, about this scene. It really is one of the best scenes of the movie, and you're right. Like, it really does have. In addition, first of all, it's a massive improvement over the lightsaber duel in Star Wars between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. Massive improvement. Wow. Because it feels a lot more fluid, but it's also like, I love how Kirshner directs it, because there's stops and starts to it, and all the while Darth Vader is taunting him, and taunting him in a way that's not to make him fail, but to not to kill him, obviously, but to unleash the darkness within him. And I love that.
That's the only reason Luke is alive.
Right.
That's the only reason, because Darth Vader could pick him apart.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, there's only one moment of that scene that I don't like, which is, it's just small. I don't want to harp on it, but it's the scene where, like, Darth Vader gets kicked off one of the You guys remember that, where he gets kicked off this platform and he goes like, "Woo!" Yeah, it's really bad. That's the one part of it I don't like. But anyway, but I really like. I guess I do like the scene. I do like his scream, because it's so primal, and it's like I feel like it really makes his tragedy almost Greek, because it's realizing something that's so evil is tied to you. I mean, what's more intimate than family? Realizing, and I think also the film has really foreshadowed this in a way that hasn't given it away too much, but makes sense, which is the scene in the cave when he has that hallucination, when we see that Darth Vader is his face, which is really one of the creepiest images I can think of in this series of films. But yeah, it just, I think it really, because it seems very primal. It's not as bad as when Darth Vader screams "no" in Episode 3, which is totally ridiculous to me. And I love Mark Hamill's expression, especially like contrasting that with, when we first saw him in Tatooine. I mean, this is a guy he's like, in that moment, he's scarred on so many levels.
Yeah.
Realizing that, that he, holding his father up, and realizing that, his father is actually this guy.
Because it is overacting. Like, it is going over the top.
Yeah.
And
I don't know, it makes sense in the moment, I think.
Poke fun at so much that it's really, again, like with all the originals, it's really hard to go back and just look at it for what it is.
Yeah.
Let's
on its merits.
Right.
I want to also weigh in that if this is true, if Vader is Luke's father, this means Obi-Wan, a figure whom Luke has basically deified, who just trusts blindly and takes everything he says as fact. It means that this character lied to Luke, or manipulated Luke into doing something. I don't know.
Less than perfect.
Yeah. So there's an added weight of this deified figure betraying.
I like the fact that what Luke keeps repeating afterwards is Ben. It's not like Vader. He's not thinking you're talking about Darth Vader. He's thinking of Ben. Like, that's what hurts. It's not the idea of Darth Vader being his father. It's the idea that the person he trusted most did not tell him that.
Right. Very true.
Just him lying on the medical bed and being like,
saying, "Ben, why didn't you tell me?"
Just that little moment is like, that's the cherry on top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I definitely think that's a big part of it. I guess I do, but I also do think it is the fact that this man is his father.
For sure. I think it's both. I think that's why it's an extra. Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's why I love that earlier scene in the cave so much, because the face that he sees is his face, and the realization that he's capable of this. which is I think a struggle that anyone needs to realize, that they're capable not just of good but of evil. But that can be a hard truth to take, especially when you're not expecting it, and like you guys have said, that you've deified. I think both Obi-Wan and his father, who he's only known in the abstract up to this point.
That's a great point. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So, it really does. That scene really does stand the test of time, and I love the lighting. I love how it starts off in the dark, and eventually gets
so much shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much literal darkness enveloping them.
I mean, I honestly I know I keep saying this, but man, the production design in these movies is amazing to me. Like I really feel like in the special effects obviously have a lot to do with that as well, but the way they really make every setting distinctive. I was amazed by Dagobah. I mean, that looks like impenetrable swamp. I mean, that's we're talking Heart of Darkness level.
And Lucas is great with practical. He was really a master of the practical effects of this era, and he can't take all the credit because he's got a lot of great minds working with him. But Yoda's puppet is another example. When I'm watching it, I totally forget it's a puppet. It's really wonderful. And interestingly enough, I'm going to St. Martin a couple of weeks, in about a month actually, and we're the guy who did Yoda's puppet opened a museum there, so we're gonna go tour the museum.
Oh, is Frank Oz? Is it Frank? Or...
No, maybe not. Actually, let me just put up before I spread false information. God forbid anyone spreads false information.
I think he operated the puppet and did the voice.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think the guy who made the puppet is who I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
They're different people,
that's
right?
Different, yeah. Yeah, no, I will say the one thing. Gosh, I can't remember now. I will say, even though this film is pretty bleak, I think at the end there is. It's not like it's totally I think there is a little bit of something renewed, just by the very fact of Luke being together with Leia again.
Yeah.
And Lando, who now has renewed purpose, and of course obviously Chewbacca and C-3PO and R2-D2. But you're right. I don't know. We're running really long now, I guess, but I don't know what you guys think. But I think one of the other things I was aware watching this movie was there are moments in this film that I can't imagine seeing it for the first time, because I would there are revelations in this movie that I imagine being blown away by. I'm Your Father is the big one, obviously, but also
Darth Vader being in the room when Lando betrays them.
Yeah, there's that moment. There's when Yoda says there is another. What the hell does that mean? I mean, we know now, but if you're watching it for the first time, you don't know who he's talking about. I mean, It's just really it's moments like that where they really were content to be oh, let's put this little thing in and see how people react, and then they'll wait 3 years to figure it out.
The right way to do a twist.
Yeah. So
and not be like it was Ben Kenobi the whole time.
So, do you want to do closing thoughts then?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, from my end, as far as I'm concerned, I have no problems with the acclamation of this movie as on sort of an overall quality level being best of the originals. Although I think all of them are great movies, and I think even more so than New Hope. Whereas New Hope, there were a couple of parts where watching it again, I was like, okay, here and there are a few parts that are really a bit weaker, but they're kind of lifted up. We talked about this being lifted up by what it became. Empire Strikes Back, I think, is really in the same vein of Wrath of Khan, where when you go back at it, you just find more stuff to love.
Yeah.
And you find more reasons to like want to go back and keep watching it, even though, again, on a purely superficial level, it's been surpassed 10,000 times over by today. But again, along with Wrath of Khan and the other really great classic sci-fi movies, the core is there. Like the heart, the characters, how they develop the story, how they pace everything, is really just incredibly well done from start to finish.
Yeah.
Those are my thoughts.
Well, so, yeah, I echo those thoughts. I think maybe there are some little things that we talked about that, but I think for the most part, it's just very impressive. It really shows that they were willing to really make this a sophisticated saga, and really talk, do things that they couldn't do in the first movie, which was, I think, a fairly standard good and evil tale. Really getting into this whole possibility of duality of good and evil in one person. And also, like, it is very much a film that's about failure. It's about plunging headfirst into situations that you think that seem right at the time. Of course, he seemed like it was a good idea to try to save his friends, and seeing in retrospect how these things were short-sighted. And yeah, I love that element. There's definitely kind of an Oedipus influence on this movie, and of realizing that the tragedy that you're trying to help avoid is actually closer than you think, and you might be actually responsible for in some way. So I love the direction in this movie. I think it's a huge improvement over George Lucas. No offense, Mr. Lucas, but it's so much.
I think we can agree Lucas is better as a visionary than he is as a nuts and bolts.
Yeah,
day-to-day.
Just from a technical standpoint, it's so much better. I think the action sequences are a lot more involving. The editing is a lot better, I think, in terms of knowing where things are in relation to one another. And it just continued to expand the level of the production design, and really, again, immersing us in this world. So yeah, it's definitely my favorite. I mean, we're gonna be revisiting Jedi, so we'll see how that holds up. But yeah, as of right now, this is definitely my favorite of any of the Star Wars movies.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to waste time by rehashing what Justin and Noah both put better than I ever could. So let me say thank you all for watching. Check out our next episode, which we'll be doing episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Or what was the original title? Revenge of the Jedi?
Oh gosh, maybe.
I think the original was Revenge of the Jedi.
Oh, I like that.
But thanks again for watching.
Revenge of the Jedi clone. Menacing.
Definitely not that. It was definitely not that. They originally marketed it as Revenge, but then they're like, the Jedi would not go after revenge, so let's make that a little more Jedi-like. But alright, I'm gonna press the stop button. Thanks again for watching. Check us out soon. We'll be back for episode 6, and I hope to do episode 7 when that comes out in about a month's time.
I think we should do a regular review with the 3 of us after it comes out. After we all get a chance to see it.
So keep following us, subscribe, do all those fancy things.
Like, share, tweet.
Twit.